Welcome back to Otherworld Games. What's going on, everybody? Brand new video idea I wanted to try out today. We're doing Star Wars Unlimited color theory. So I thought it would be fun to take the exact same leader, build it with each different aspect, and then just kind of do sort of a deep dive into how that affects the playstyle, what the deck is trying to do, what it's able to do, what some of the vulnerabilities are, and things like that. This isn't meant to be a meta defining how to play Obi-Wan in the new meta kind of video. I'm not going to be claiming any of these as super meta breaking deck lists. They're going to be things I tinker with all the time. I'll share all the deck lists. I'm going to be making changes to them all the time. This is really just analysis for if you're a new player, or if you're not familiar with all the new cards that came out, or if you're just curious about color identity in Star Wars. Then this is going to be for you. We're going to jump right into it. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. Hopefully I will be relatively brief. But we're going to get right into aggression to start. So aggression, just from a kind of high level overview, your removal is a little bit different than the other colors. You're doing direct damage pinging primarily. You do have really good upgrade removal. So a lot of the stuff in the new set, things like Kylo, General's Blade, anything scary like that, you're just not worried about. You can attack buff your own units, and you do have direct burn damage and hand hate. It was always a thing, is a lot more of a thing now that you do get consistent card draw with red. You're able to really pop off with the new caddy card. So pretty versatile color. A lot of the Star Wars Unlimited did a really good job making all the aspects fluid. A lot of these are going to share elements. We're trying to focus on just what each one color is doing by itself. But if you kind of think about what aggression wants to do and then jump over to what an Obi-Wan aggression deck list would look like, Obi-Wan coming out of 5 makes a lot of these lists want to try to be aggressive. Red is by name the most aggressive, is probably the best at that. Red-green is just a really good aggressive combo. So all these are using the new force base. You're going to want to start with some kind of turn 2 force ground unit. Ideally get the force going right on turn 2 with Maz, attack, get the extra damage in, get the force, pump one of them with the leader, just hit the ground running, keep swinging. I've actually really enjoyed the infused brawler. I like the red Obi-Wan the most overall from what I tested, but I was enjoying infused brawler a lot. It's a solid turn 1 just to get the force train going, but you also just for 2 late in the game, any other time in the game, 4-4 for 2 is kind of insane. It will lose experience as it punches into things, but very solid card. For removal, so not running any of the double aspect name cards in these lists because we're not going double aspect, except for the green list, which we'll get to later. But ideally in this list, you're trying to be aggressive. So you have 2-drop, General's Blade, play something cheap, typical things you'd expect. For removal, you have Open Fire, Take Captive. You do have late game Mace Windu. You do have Blue Leader to ambush into things. So ambush is more of the green side, but you do get a lot of damage flinging with red. And I did throw in the Dissailing Fangfinder just to try to answer those turn 2 blade on something kind of decks. You might have like a Gunji on the other side that you ought to deal with getting a blade. And you do have just a tiny bit of top end with your home ones and your Mace Windu and things like that, but you're really just trying to hit the ground running and kill your opponent fast. Force Throw is obviously super strong. There's going to be so much discussion about that. We don't have to get into Force Throw, but really solid card. You can Force Throw your own things. You can, now with Caddy, just draw the cards back. It doesn't matter that much as long as you see the right things. Just really solid color combo. Hits fast and hard. Forces your opponent to respond to a number of things that they don't want to have to deal with. The Obi-Wan Sentinel can be annoyingly sticky sometimes. The Jedi in hiding makes them discard if they do manage to kill it. Just difficult scenarios, put your opponent in when they're already taking a lot of damage. And now that being said, we're going to move on. Head on over to command. So Obi-Wan command specifically, obviously the leader is green, so the only double aspect scenario we're going to have today. But green likes to ramp. You're going to discount your units through other means. You have things like the Jedi Consular that just came out, Alliance Dispatcher, any number of other ways to, like Vader can search top deck, play something for free. Well, within certain conditions, obviously, but really strong abilities that allow you to get your units out faster. And then that also feeds into having just really good late game big units. Green probably has the scariest late game big bombs to deal with. A couple of exceptions there, like Crate Dragon maybe. You do have a lot of weird removal. A lot of it's based on units being in play. And then to feed into that, you have cards that want to buff the units that are already in play. And then you have a lot of ambush and overwhelm recurring factor there. And now, so we already saw a lot of the green elements because Obi-Wan is just a green leader by himself. But if we look at what a green list would try to accomplish, a pure green list, I did experiment a little bit with the Oppo, I think it's Oppo Rancis or whatever his name is for the new set. I don't like that card. There's not a lot of good early game green cards that have keywords that you are going to try to piggyback off of, and late game it just kind of doesn't matter. You might be able to throw them down as an extra sentinel, but why really bother doing that if you already have just other sentinels you can play? Just kind of an awkward card. I think someone will figure out a way to use that card. It has not been relevant in any of the Obi-Wan lists I've run. You do have, so I mentioned here the Jedi Consular. I'm really trying to keep these lists to 8 to 9 turn 1 ground force units to, get the force train going, like I said. So you have Luke Skywalker Pilot is really solid force unit. You have the Jedi Consular we mentioned, and then Gunji. Gunji I feel like has to be in all these Obi-Wan lists. He's just so sticky, difficult to deal with. He's a Jedi force user, obviously. Really solid turn 1. And then trying to stick to what Green wants to do. So Sabine's Masterpiece, Inspiring Mentor, and Yoda's Lightsaber, all pretty good ways to pump your units up. You have Luke, the new Luke hero unit. He's not green, but when you play other unique units, he's going to get stronger and get the shield. You have Command that does everything Green wants to do. You're going to buff your guys, you're going to ramp, you're going to only hit something that is not unique, which is really awkward at time. That ability doesn't come up a whole lot for the damage ping. But that and Strike True is going to be the payoff for buffing your units up, other than obviously getting damage in. And then really solid late game units. You have Keller and Beck, Home 1, Yoda. Experimented a bit with Leia. In the right scenario, she can actually be kind of crazy if you manage to keep a board alive. It's like a mini Unity of Peace there. You could just pump everybody up. Ayla is just a really solid 5-drop for this kind of a deck. I was sneaking in a little bit of timely intervention in the right scenario with the ambush and coordinate. She can be really strong late game too. You do have a lot of 2-drops that aren't the worst to play late game for things like coordinate or Leia. And then they're also searchable off Kelleran. So you just, a couple of ways to get your board presence strong. And then if you do also have a board that is sticky, Yoda is a pretty solid payoff. Nothing shocking here. It is, some experimental stuff on my part, but pretty true to what Green wants to do. Clone is a pretty unique card for Green, being able to copy the traits. I really wonder if, from a color identity aspect, they're going to do more with that in the future. If that's a Green thing, or if that was just made green because there was already a lot of, green clone things. But I'm curious to see kind of how yellow can take control of things if Green in the future can just copy things. Might be able to do like a Jedi mind trick ability or something that can keep that theme going in the future. But yeah, we're gonna move on. You do have a tiny bit of restore that comes with Green too. I don't think that is really stuck on a Green. That's going to be more of a blue thing. We're going to get into that in a minute. So moving along to Vigilance. Vigilance is probably my favorite color to play. I just feel like whenever you're in a hole and things, maybe you had a weird start or your opponent did something that caught you off guard, or any scenario, I feel like blue, and sometimes green, but blue has the best ability to claw your way out of weird holes, is the best at just straight up answering anything crazy your opponent can do with outright permanent removal. You get to restore health pretty consistently if you lean into it. There's so many good restore units now. The new Yaddle, very sticky. We're seeing it, not always consistent shield as a identity for blue, but the new Kanan leader is all about shielding. People are doing some fun things with him. I think shields are going to be actually really powerful this set with just some of the generic blue Jedi units that get shields. The new blue Crafty Smuggler is going to see a bunch of play. And again, a lot of these are shared between different aspects, but blue is going to see a lot of Sentinels. Blue wants to go long and outlast you. They're going to have a lot of hard removal. They're going to have Sentinels. They're going to heal their base. They're sometimes going to mill you. Thank God that is not a thing that Star Wars Unlimited is leaning into too heavily, but that is sometimes an option for blue. We're going to look at what Obi-Wan Blue can do. Out of the 4 options, I enjoyed blue second to red. Red feels really strong right now. Mostly Force Throw and Caddy is really strong, and then Mace is such a good late game card. But second to that, blue was my favorite. I tried to lean into, and again, not a de facto Obi-Wan list, but I tried to lean into the fact that we now have a couple of really good Luke Skywalkers. So I was playing with Luke's lightsaber just to try to pay off the shields, because I feel like shields are really strong right now. So you have the turn 1 Secretive Sage, that is the blue Crafty Smuggler. It's just 2/2 with shields, but it does have the Force Trait, so probably going to stick until you play into like some heavy control matchup. Get the Force going early for you. Yaddle, Gunji, very sticky. I'm also running Luke in this list because we have some pretty cool space options. Primarily, I wanted to lean into card draw, also very relevant right now because of all the hand heat and force throw. So I feel like you're playing blue, you probably want to be running Red Squadron, X-Wing, and then if that manages to live or Bright Hope manages to live, Luke can be versatile. But blue, you're going to see things like Chirrut a lot now, because if you have a force-based deck, he is so sticky. He's a 3/5 that can knock 2 off the attacker if you use the force. Is just surprisingly difficult to deal with for a lot of decks. He's going to probably stick around for at least 2 hits. Unless you are in a weird spot where you haven't been able to generate the force, or it's a heavy control deck. There's obviously certain exemptions there, but you get Shatterpoint. Seen mixed reactions on this card. I love this card. It's so flexible. It's another copy of Fel the Dragon. You have basically a better Fel the Dragon that is flexible. There's so many tiny Sentinels now that'll pop up, like the shielded creature for Kanan, or the 3/3 Stormtrooper, Death Trooper for Green Villainy, or the Village Protector, or whatever it is. You can just get rid of it. And it obviously has the built-in just kill whatever you want if you spend the force, which in a deck with these new bases is pretty easy to keep the force going. I just really like it. I would be curious to see how people feel about that card from just a blue perspective. Is it too strong? Is it too flexible? Do we want to see more multifaceted removal cards like that? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that one. But then you obviously have the new blue Anakin unit. I think this card is insane. It is a bit of an exception from a color identity standpoint for blue because of the villainy element. It still does what you see a lot from blue is negging, just to a weirder criteria, obviously. But even without villainy cards in your deck, I feel like he's really solid. You get probably the ability to mitigate a threat if you play him early and you're just saying, all right, I'm spending 6 and ending my turn, but at least I can mitigate a threat. Or you can finish a unit off. If you do hit both aspects, you can hit 2 different things, which in this list we're obviously not going for, but just a really powerful card. And then kind of just keeps damage off the board. If you aren't killing something, you're keeping 3 damage off a swing, which keeps him alive longer, keeps your base alive longer. Always useful. The fact that it's built into a unit, just very powerful. And then you have probably the best blue hero legendary we're gonna see until it rotates out, in my opinion. 7-drop Luke. If something died, you knock 6/6 off something, and you always get the 3/3. So following Anakin up with Luke can be really backbreaking. Plus, you can just kind of take your foot off the gas and kill it if they do manage to play something scary that you're worried about. You have so much removal. Blue is going to see their board stick a lot better than most. And I think you'll have an easier time paying off something like Ayla even without the ambush, but you do have the option for the ambush. Just a really strong color combination. A lot of removal, a lot of shields, a lot of restore, a lot of sentinels. We're going to move on now to Obi-Wan Cunning. So Cunning, high level, does a lot of things. Really powerful color. Almost every card that's been banned so far is Cunning. Is just maybe the dev's favorite color. I play a lot of Cunning. It always feels like you're just kind of doing a little too much. Really powerful colors. Obi-Wan I feel like is strange because green-yellow is kind of a weird color combo at the moment in the game. You have a hard time removing things unless you're sort of preemptively ripping it from their hand. It's not quite aggro enough in those colors, in my opinion, to just not deal with removal. Just a weird combo, but I would be really curious to see how people are cooking up. I've seen potential for like a green-yellow Qui-Gon, green-yellow Obi-Wan. Can be really good, but also can be awkward at times. So yellow, you're going to exhaust and ready your units or your opponent's units, or their resources or your resources. The Han leader from last set didn't see a lot of play, but can have some really crazy leader flips where you ready all your resources. Just really powerful stuff. You're also going to get ambush out of yellow. You're obviously going to have some hand hate. There's a really good a bunch of new hand hate cards for yellow actually that are generic that are going to be snuck into a lot of the go long kind of decks. And then you are going to bounce your opponent's units too. So not always the best option. There's a lot of really powerful on-play effects in the game now. So bouncing is one of the reasons that bouncing and the tapping is you're sort of just stalling the opponent, which can work if you're able to out aggro them, but we don't know if we get there with Obi-Wan. But I still had a lot of fun playing Obi-Wan yellow. You can take a look at the list. I tried really hard to lean into sort of a lot of just as much ambush or units that come out ready as possible for this list. Again, we're using the new force base. We want to start with a 2-drop force unit for that reason. A couple of ways to get the force right away on turn 1 that I enjoy with this deck is you have the Mysterious Hermit, comes out ambush, gives you the force, and since your leader doesn't cost any resources, you get the pump right away. And then obviously the Youngling Padawan is just on play, get the force. So that can just be a 3-4 turn 1 play, which is kind of nuts. Ahsoka, if you're playing from behind, is an instant force ability if you have less units than your opponent. I'm not super sold on her. Her stats are a little weird, but you can have her just come out, ambush into something, and get you the force back. Vernestra also has the kind of fun curve of if you already have the force, you can have her come in ready and then swing with her and get the force back. Also, just keeping a pressure on your opponent. You obviously have the Millennium Falcon comes in ready. Would love to see what some other people are cooking up with this. I feel like if you get slowed down by like removal or sentinels early, his deck doesn't have the top end to outlast a lot of the like current meta decks right now. But you do have Plo Koon can be pretty good if you get the coordinate going. You have the Jedi Temple Guards that come out and ambush. You have Space Ambush or just Millennium Falcon coming in ready. Blue Leader again. Late game you have Deepa and Qui-Gon. And then Plo Koon's kind of your mid game. And then you have things like Change of the Heart and Will of the Force to pay off. Will of the Force is just another good payoff for having the Force. You're ideally using it to pump up your units with Obi-Wan. It's a cool combo with Obi-Wan that your guys come in ready a lot, and then you get to pump them up right away and just get extra damage in pretty consistently. Change of Heart can sometimes just win you the game if you're in a race and they get, they say, all right, I've had a Piet matchup where they were sitting back and ramping and drop something big, and I said, okay, I will just claim, take it, smack them with it, win the game. Really powerful card. I feel like that's going to see some more play, at least in the side deck right now. And then you're always going to run General's Blade. You have the option to start the game on turn 2 with a 5-8. Why would you not? also could be really cool way to cheese out some of these come in ready units, sort of kind of mitigate the cost of keeping the Falcon out a few turns in a row, things like that. Just some cool synergy. I did mess around with Impossible Escape. Can tap either a friendly unit or use the Force, and then if you do, you can tap an enemy unit and draw a card. I'm trying to squeeze a tiny bit of card draw into each deck just because the hand hate right now is kind of rampant. That's just a personal choice, but really neat that there's a couple of ways for each color to kind of trickle that in. I think red and blue do it the best, but yellow has options there too. I actually think green might just not have any other than just like tutor cards that you can search for, whatever unit you want and grab it. But I might be, let me know if I'm missing some, but I don't believe there's too much for just straight green to draw cards. But every other color at least has something. So cool, maybe side deck options, but nice to be able to draw cards in a hand hate kind of meta. That is really all I have for Obi-Wan. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought. If you have any harsh disagreements, if you have any kind of fun deck brewing ideas, I'm going to post all the deck lists in the description. I had a lot of fun testing every version. I'm actually working right now on the same thing for Anakin, the new Anakin Legends of the Force. Primarily playing in blue because of the new unit and just really good on curve Force user kind of stuff that you get out of that. But we're going to take a look at every color and just have fun. I'm going to test all kinds of stuff and join the new set and keep coming to you guys with a lot of jank and a lot of useful tidbits, hopefully. So, yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day.